Hey, I'm Adam with Conversations in Color. I just got done with an awesome conversation with Dr. Rod Jones and Dennis Beal with the Power Perception. We had a really awesome conversation about the impact that Dennis is making here in the Eau Claire community and about some of the initiatives that he's kind of taken on and really championed in the area since he's had this business here. So super excited to have that conversation. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsors. We're coming to you live again from Shift Cyclery and Coffee Bar here in downtown Eau Claire. So thank you, Shift, for your sponsorship of this production. Other sponsors include Pablo Center at the Confluence, University of Wisconsin Eau Claire, and Converge Radio. Now, I'd like to invite you into the conversation. All right, gentlemen, so we've been trying to get Dennis here for over a year, and finally we got him here on a Monday night to chat with us at Shift. So, Dennis, do you want to just kind of share a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to, and then we'll kind of dive into that as we go here.
Yeah, thank y'all again for having me today. Very blessed and honored to be here today. A little bit about me, man, where do I even start? I just started, though I guess you could say I'm a founder and the owner of the Power Perception, Inc., which is a nonprofit organization geared towards African American and biracial youth, serving the greater Eau Claire community in the 6th through 12th grade. Got 2 chapters right now, one currently with the Eau Claire Area School District, specifically serving the African American and biracial population. And then I got another chapter with the Boys and Girls Club, which is more so the community chapter, but still serving that 6th through 12th grade. I got a for-profit as well, which is my Beal Consultant LLC, which is like public speaking on the side, just getting the word out there, kind of inspiring, uplifting, and motivating our youth because they need it. They're the next set of leaders up, so if I can give some wisdom, knowledge, encouragement to them, that's the goal. You know, so yeah, that's a little bit about me. Originally from Chicago. College brought me to Eau Claire, finished up, got 2 degrees from the university, undergraduate degree in sociology, as well as a master's in higher education, professional development. And this kind of something new, but been thinking about that doctorate lately. Been thinking heavily about that doctorate. So good. That's kind of the next thing, I guess you could say, on my wish list. So been kind of inquiring about some programs and I'll be starting that up here soon. So
good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Great news. And so, Rod, how do you fit into this mix? I know that you are involved with Power Perception as well, right?
Absolutely. So, what was that, Dennis? Was it a couple summers ago?
Yeah.
Maybe a couple fall seasons ago?
Yeah, about 2 summers ago.
Yeah, so I was actually over in Altoona, and I get this call, or text maybe. I can't remember if it was a call or text.
I think it was the call.
Okay.
Yeah.
And answered the call, and Dennis introduced himself to me. And prior to that, we had actually made connection via LinkedIn. Yeah. Right, and we just kind of was following each other's work through LinkedIn. Yeah. And then, Dennis gave me a call and said, listen, I've been watching what you've been doing. Yeah. On LinkedIn, I heard a lot about you at the university. Really like what you represent, what you're about. Would you consider being on my board? Yeah. And I was like, absolutely. And so since that point in time, being handpicked by Dennis himself, right? I have been serving on the board of Power Perception, and it's been definitely edifying. I appreciate to be able to function in this capacity with Dennis. And Dennis has done some absolutely astonishing things for Eau Claire and beyond. And I know that as he continues to delve into this work, his passion is and his reach is gonna even be larger, greater, right? And I don't want to eclipse what he's about to tell us about, the capacity of his new business or his new status. But even with that, I see it being even more transformational. And what Dennis is going to be able to do for our community. So, just happy to be a part of Power Perception and be here to talk about, the scope of what you all do.
Definitely.
And when you were at the university, did you two ever run into each other? Were you at UWC when Dennis was in school? Okay. So it was just post-graduation for you and while you've been working at the university that you've kind of connected.
Yeah, I kind of saw I was like, man, another African-American at the university. So one of my biggest things is, when you see something like that, you want to reach out, you know what I mean, and get connected. And, there's not many minorities that come through the university like that. So when I kind of just started following Rod's work and what he was doing, I was like, man, I need to get in contact with this guy. He seemed like a good, genuine person. And, you don't really find that. sometimes, and so reaching out, man, open arms, man, all open arms, and we got connected, and so I'm happy to have him on the team. It's like a brotherhood, we gotta get in where we fit in. So, to be honest with you, like me and Rob been, he's been a great asset to me, So I appreciate him.
Yeah, awesome. and also met Willie.
Yeah.
Willie
McCaleb, who's an alumnus of this show.
There you go, right? And come to find out that Willie and I are not too far apart from each other in Florida. Where we both used to live in Florida, yeah.
Oh, cool.
So it's just, interesting, small world, right?
Small world.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, I was happy to be able to make that connection as well. Definitely. Good things.
Yeah, and Dennis, you and I have connected on a couple things with CoLab and Power Perception and your parent group.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about what exactly Power Perception does?
Man, where do I start? Oh, man.
It's a lot.
So basically, the Power Perception is basically, like I said, is a nonprofit entity. With this organization, it's really trying to just give hope to the Black and biracial kids here in the greater Eau Claire community. When you look around, I mean, you all can do your research, what do we have specifically that's geared towards the African American and biracial population here? And I'm not talking just one program in a school. I'm not talking about just, trying to meet a quota or, just this specific population. What do we have that's really geared towards them, to help show them, somebody in a professional realm, somebody that's doing positive things, not just because the George Floyd situation came about. So I want to give hope. I want to give inspiration. I want to give these kids hope, because when you look in the news, anytime you see African American, you always see something negative. It's never nothing positive, to be honest with you. You might get a little sprinkles here and there. Maybe you might see Rod, you might see, Salik, you might see myself, but, majority of it is all negativity. And so my biggest thing is giving them positivity. So it's just giving them hope. So it's just a variety of different things that we have going on. So with the Eau Claire Area School District chapter, this population, we meet every Wednesday for the most part, 5:30 to 8. I'll give them dinner every time they come through. Homework help from 6 to 7, and then we give them an educational lesson, and that could range from a guest speaker, a local field trip to one of the local businesses here in Eau Claire, and then put them in front of a guest speaker that look like themselves to tell their story. One of my biggest things, I'm an advocate for college all the way, but also too, what about mastering your craft and mastering a trade? That's another big thing that we're not really pushing. What about the hairstylists, the barbers, those individuals that are making a living off what they do and just through their craft. And so my biggest thing is helping these kids see a variety. It's just like, going to a buffet. When you go to a buffet, you got a variety of different things that you could choose from. So I want to give them that option when it comes to life. I don't want them to go to a college and then just say, man, I went there because my mom and dad told me to go there. And then you go there for 4 or 5, 6 years, and all of a sudden you got a world of debt, and you don't even know what you're about to go graduate and know what you're about to go into the real world, embarking in when it comes to your career. So I want to give them hope. I want to show them, something that they've never seen, put them in different positions. So typically I try to theme each month. So September we did uplift, motivation. October we did STEAM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. November we did health, wellness, fitness. What are some of the things that are affecting the African American community when it comes to health? Diabetes, high blood pressure, eating right, eating healthy, all that good stuff. December, we dove into entrepreneurship. I got a partnership with the Royal Credit Union, and basically for the month of January, they'll be learning how to grow their own business from scratch, just through the different resources that Royal Credit has through their Fuse program, Future U.S. Entrepreneurs. And so that's what we have going on at this point. And then honestly giving a sprinkle of just a variety of different just community events that's geared towards African American and the biracial population. And one of those events that we actually just put on was the toy drive. This past Saturday from 11 to 1, geared towards Black and biracial kids, all the way from the babies all the way up to the age of 18. And so this is our second year putting that on. It was a great success. We blessed a lot of families. A lot of people came through, a lot of good feedback just from parents in general, just saying, just giving us a place of hope. You know what I mean? That they seeing people that look like themselves. Because sometimes, that you don't see that a lot. You don't see us migrating all African Americans in one central location. So having something like like that. And huge shout out to the Boys and Girls Club for letting us use the space. And man, they've been a great help too and great support with just everything that we're doing. So that's the way in which that we kind of giving back, man. And then also the other entity is the our POP parent group. So with the parent group, one of the things that I noticed when I first started Power Perception is the poverty rates here. The poverty rates here are amongst the highest when it comes to African Americans. They are at the top of the totem pole. And so that's heartfelt for me. That's something that, one of the things that I told myself, I want to dismantle, and I know that's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to take a variety, it's going to take some time, right? And so one of the things with the parent group, I partnered up with Royal Credit Union for this initiative, but teaching them financial literacy, and that's one of the keys that we're not, I feel like as minorities, especially in the Black population, we don't want to give the other minority that key to success, and my biggest thing, man, I just feel like your blessing gonna come later on, you know what I mean? So why not give them the key now, and so with the Royal Credit Union, we had a variety of different sessions from renting versus owning, how do you save money, how do you start your own business, just a variety of different topics. And one of those things is that I want to make sure that we instill in these parents, helping them to understand that it starts from the top down. The parents, if they got it instilled in them, they can instill it into that younger generation, and that's their kids. And so that's with the parent group, man. It's been good. We had about 6 to 8 active parents within the group, and so it was great to even partner with you all, just give out the resources. Because one of the things that Becca Cook reached out to me when it came to the Red Letter Grant was there was no minority women that were receiving this grant. And so my biggest thing is I know about these resources. I'm not a woman, first off, but I am a minority. So if I can give the next minority that leg up or a key to, this door opening up even more opportunities for you, I want to do that. And that's what we did. So yeah, that's what we're doing for Power Perception.
That's awesome. And I think one of the things that really struck me the most about the particular speakers that you program for Power Perception is that they're from all sorts of different industries.
Correct.
You're not just putting lawyers and doctors and those like high level professions in front of people. You're also putting janitors and cab drivers and barbers and things that are just as legitimate of trades or careers.
Correct.
But you don't have to go through 10 years of schooling, which might be completely unattainable, or just something that people don't want to do.
Correct.
They want to hone that craft or that trade, and that's a legitimate career path for them.
Definitely.
And I think that that's a really important thing that you're putting in front of these kids is all of these are legitimate.
Correct.
And you can do whatever you would like. Look at the people that also look like you that do these things.
That's it.
So that's one thing that really struck me is the vast diversity in industry that you've chosen as your speakers.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
And that means a lot to me, and honestly seeing people within my network. Cause I always told myself, like, I know all these people, but I was like, how can that benefit me? And then being able to use these speakers in my network to my advantage to help show these kids there's hope. You know what I mean? Like, this is a barber that's doing, like one of my barbers that I know, he cuts Minnesota Twin players, Minnesota Viking players, and he's well off. You know what I mean? Own a couple restaurants and doing a couple other side things, but it's just giving them hope to know, like, okay, if you're going to school to be a barber, just know if you keep grinding at that consistency, like being consistent, when it comes to that, look at how far you can go. And I'm showing you an example of that, a living example. I'm not just painting a picture, a blank photo, and telling you eventually you'll get to that level. I'm actually showing you the physical person that's put in the blood, sweat, and tears, and now look at how his life has transformed. And so if I can give hope to these kids when it comes to these type of career paths, that's the goal, man. That's the goal. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Dennis, as you're working with these students and families, what kind of feedback, what kind of input, what kind of insights are you gaining from students and their parents?
A lot, a lot. I'll be honest with y'all, I'll probably get a message or two probably once a week, but just, how positive it's been. Setting up this type of program that's geared towards this specific population has been very beneficial. Some parents have seen a change in their behavior. Some parents have told me, my child is now pursuing, this field, or, getting more, got more YouTube channels pulled up on this type of profession, so I could tell it's really working. And my biggest thing, when it comes to that is planting the seed and watering it. You know what I mean? Like, the initial thing was just getting it started, and that was the seed. And now that we planted that, I want to keep watering, and we watering it with the different events that we're putting on, the different educational lessons that we putting on, the different guest speakers that we putting in front of them. I want to give these kids hope. I want them to be the ones. And the biggest thing is retention. You know what I mean? As we even look for like the city goals with retaining some of these minority people that we have currently, and they're just in middle school and high school. Just imagine this type of program to help them. They go off to college or master their craft, master their trade, and then they might be able to come back and bless the great Eau Claire community in a larger way. You know, so that's my biggest thing kind of behind what I'm doing is like planting that seed and watering, and then you're watching it grow. You know what I mean? But you don't know what it's going to grow into. It can grow into something as bigger than what we can even imagine or fathom, you know? And so that's my biggest goal behind a lot of this. And then honestly, when I put on these events, like seeing the smiles on these kids' faces, man, like that's what really means a lot to me. Like, honestly, like them just opening up more about, you know, their experience of being Black and biracial in the greater Eau Claire community, talking about their struggles, being able to relate to one another. Because the thing about my program is district wide. It's not one specific, you know, school. It's district wide. So I got students coming from all different, you know, walks of life, all different schools, and they all come into a central location. You know what I mean? They
and all
feel
different ages, right?
All different ages, from 6 to 12. You know, and so the biggest thing for that is I want them to have hope. I want them to be open, you know, because like I said, we don't have nothing geared towards African American. And my biggest thing, you know, even when it comes to minority population, you hear a lot about the Hmong population here. But like one of my biggest things is we want to be that next hub too. You know what I mean? As the African American group to come in and make a difference, show people why we're doing what we do, why we eat the food that we eat, why we dress the way we dress, why we get our haircuts every 2 weeks, or why we, you know, get our hair braided, whatever the case might be. I want to give them that understanding, that cultural competency that I feel like that I think needs to be shared, you know, when it comes to these different minority groups, you know, so, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, even within the parent group that I met with, one of the parents was starting a hair braiding business, and even amongst that group, they were like, I need to talk to you because I need to learn how to do my kids' hair. Correct. And some of those types of events that you've done, just even talking about Black hair as something that is different because it is legitimately different. Correct. And it requires different care. Yeah. I think those things and celebrating those things is super important and a big part of what you're doing and the impact that you're having, which is really, really great.
Definitely. And even just to kind of piggyback on what you just said about just hair care, we just hosted even a hair care event, November, just to give back, you know. So basically with this hair care event, I had a panel of different people from dreadlocks to low cuts to curls to parents that have Black or biracial kids that, you know, take care of their hair. You know, and so having that panel of different people up there to talk about their experience and what's that like on a larger scale, that's key. Another big thing was bringing barbers and hair braiders there to help with, you know, I got parents that just say, I just don't know how to do that type of hair, you know, and so giving back, you know, I brought these barbers and these hair braiders in, and they basically did the hair braiding tutorials and free haircuts, and that's just like, and it's like, man, one of the kids was like, man, I never got my hair cut before, but this feels so amazing, you know. And one girl was like, man, I never got my hair braided. You know, I never thought somebody could braid this type of, you know, texture of hair. And, you know, she walked out smiling, you know. And so those are the different things for me that brings a lot of joy to my heart because, you know, these kids, it's just the little things, man, that could turn into something big, you know. And so, like I said, it just goes back to planting that seed. So that seed has been planted. So
absolutely. Yeah. So Dennis, talk a little bit about some of the, I guess some of the obstacles, right? As you've grown your business, right? The obstacles can be, you know, personal, professional, whatever you know care to talk about, right? And then how have you navigated those obstacles, right? How have you learned to persevere, right? And then pass that message on to families and students.
Man, obstacles. It's not easy growing a business. I say that first off and foremost, and even starting a for-profit and a non-profit, like it's no joke. I was fortunate enough that my network is fairly large, so I know people, and I honestly say it, you know, I'm very humble about, you know, my personality, but I'm a people person. You know what I mean? So I know how to kind of navigate a little bit. But in the beginning, it was hard because, like, you know, when you self-funding something, you just got to make sure that income is coming in monthly. Having a family on top of that, it's a lot, you know, and having people to believe in your dream, because you might be able to believe in your goals and your dreams, but you got to get people on the same page with that, you know, and hopefully I've been proving myself to, you know, the great Eau Claire community when it comes to what we're doing through POP and just in general, just myself, you know, and so one of the biggest things I'll say that I had was, you know, when you first start your business, everybody feel like you're a millionaire. And it don't happen like that. You dishing money out. You know what I mean? You're getting your LLCs established. You know, you're finding an organization. You know, I had to find a company that could help me with growing a nonprofit organization. Literally, when I figured out that, when I found the application, 110 pages. You know, to start a nonprofit organization. And literally, you got to make sure all your I's is dotted and all your T's is crossed. But we already know, we ain't trying to mess with Uncle Sam, man. You mess with Uncle Sam, he'll take everything away from you, right? Like, and that's just being real, man. So that's one of my biggest things that I kind of learned. But having a strong team behind you, like, you know, obviously, like we talked in the beginning of this session, like, you know, you, Rod, being somebody on the POP advisory board, you know, that's somebody that's key. That's key for me. You got that experience, you got that background, you got that knowledge. And so, you know, having strong people behind you to help push the mission and believe in you, like, that's key. Another big thing too is getting the community to rally behind you. You know what I mean? A lot of people ain't gonna see your vision at first, you know. First couple events was, you know, it was kind of a little small, you know what I mean? But, and here's my thing too that I learned too is that when you first start up something, everybody and their mama gonna be on board with you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Everybody, you know? And so what I learned is that keep going. And then people gonna start dropping off. Mm-hmm. Dropping off along the bandwagon. Mm-hmm. So I learned, you know, who to trust, who's really there for you, who's gonna say, I'm there for you, but when things get hard, are you really there for me? You know what I mean? Are you gonna connect me with the right people? You know what I mean? Are you gonna put me in a room where I'm gonna get networked in with some of these good people? You know what I mean? Like, so, and like they always say, it's not about, you know, what you know, it's about who you know. You know, and so that's one of the biggest things that I learned throughout this whole journey is like, it's who you know. You know, if you and then investing your all into this. I don't really sleep, man. I ever since, I mean, I already couldn't sleep at first, but now I really can't sleep, man, because your brain constantly as an entrepreneur, and I didn't go to school to be an entrepreneur. My undergrad degree is in sociology and my master's is in higher ed, but trying to understand the more business mindset of it, you know, from the paperwork to establishing what you want for your business, because everybody gonna tell you what they want for your business, but you have to stick to that main goal of what you want your business to be. You know what I mean? And that's the passion that I learned behind all this, man. And I'm just very passionate about this type of work. It's not a money thing for me. Like, I don't want to, I mean, if I become a millionaire, you know, man, that's kudos to me, but I'm not doing it for that purpose. I'm doing it because I saw it goes more deeper for me. So my uncle, I'm originally from Chicago, as I mentioned. Gun violence is at an all-time high. But one of the things that really helped me wanted to tap into even the younger youth, because like I said, I was in higher ed. I worked with the, you know, your adolescents, your adults, you know, your young adults. But I just looked at it like my uncle got shot, hit by a stray bullet just driving in Chicago. That's a kid playing with a gun, right? He passed away September of 2019. When that came over me, like on a personal level, I had to fight those inner demons within myself to not retaliate, to not do something crazy, you know, to not want to spaz out. I had to turn my negativity into something positive. And so one of the things that came over me was, what if I could have mentored the young man or young lady that shot that gun? My uncle would still be here today. My uncle was a leader in my book. That was my first father figure. That was somebody who I really looked up to that was an African-American male because I grew up in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? The 80s, 90s. So you looking at Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, Michael Vick, you know, those guys. Like, those guys ain't tangible. You seeing them on TV. You know what I mean? But having somebody that I can talk to on a one-on-one, that was my uncle. That was somebody I can bring whatever to the table and literally sit that right in front of him. He kept it real with me. Didn't ever sugarcoat nothing. Always kept it real. So one of my biggest things is that how do we help he inspired a lot of youth in Chicago, man. It was almost 500 some people at his funeral, just alone, just because of his impact. And then all these stories start coming to the surface that he never talked about. And so one of my biggest things for me is that was one of the obstacles, man. How can I give back on a larger scale? How can I use my story and use what I'm passionate about to help these younger youth see y'all got potential, man. Put them guns down. You can get hope. You can be the next entrepreneur. You can own a shift. You can own a collab. You could be a professor one day. You know what I'm saying? You can make a difference and change the world. You know, and so there's certain things that I kind of learned along my journey, man. Like I said, just getting a team behind you, making sure that your team believes in you, and then you putting forth that good effort, man. Like that's one of the biggest things that I say is like people see my determination, like, you know, and my work ethic. Like I'm not slowing down no time soon. Like, you know, and I got a wife, I got 2 kids, I got a kid on the way. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, for me, like I want to also show my son and my daughter something better, because at the end of the day, my mom didn't really own much. You know what I'm saying? Growing up for me, so I wanna beat the odds, man. That's my biggest goal here. So.
Well, absolutely. I mean, as we've seen in a lot of white communities, that generational wealth is a big deal, and it's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about because it's something that they've had all along.
Yes.
If your parents own a cabin up north,
yes,
that's generational wealth that you're inheriting once they're gone.
Yes.
And something that a lot of Black, biracial, or other races don't have that access to.
Yes.
Because they haven't had that generational wealth building generation after generation while they've been here. So.
And it's giving them the key to success, man. Like some people aren't going, like I said, physically give you the key. Because I feel like, you know, sometimes you deal with jealousy, you deal with envy. Like people just don't want to see you ahead of them, you know. But for me, my heart is gold. Like my heart is big. I like to give, man. Even if I feel like you don't need it, I'm gonna still give to you. You know, and that's just my heart. You know, that's who I am as a person. And like even my students, like I tell them, I don't want nothing out of return from you. But seeing you walk across that stage, that's your give back to me. Like seeing you walk across that stage, that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I saw that you just put on, I want to say maybe LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That there were 2 students of yours, right, who recently graduated.
Yeah.
You were pumping that up on LinkedIn. Talk about that.
Man, I'll be honest with you, like they're kind of the last of the Mohegans. I say it like that. But it was 2 of my students, Ariana Dryden and Ricky Rule. Both of them, man. So Ariana, originally from Milwaukee, she didn't even have Eau Claire on her radar. I kind of got her towards the end of a Milwaukee College Fair. She and her mom was like walking out. I was like, hey, come over here. And she's like, I'm done. But then eventually I talked it up, got her to come commit to Eau Claire, and she graduated, you know, with her teaching degree. And now she was already in Texas, kind of finishing up her teaching stuff. And, you know, so she came back for graduation, and she's been on my team, since day one, since she stepped on campus. And just watching her grow, you know, she come from a single parent household, you know, and watching her grow into her profession, figure out what she wanted to do, like that was very rewarding for me. Even, you know, Ricky, Hispanic, grew up first generation, you know, to go to college. And I remember Ricky coming in my office, you know, when I was working at the university to, you know, he was like, basically, I'm about to drop out because I don't have no money to pay for college. And I just remember, like, you know, I use a servant leadership model with my students. So basically, I don't just talk about what I do for them. I'm going to direct you and give me your hand. Let's walk to the resources. And so that's what I did with Ricky. And, you know, ever since that day, man, like he always tell me, like, you changed my life. You know, if it wasn't for you taking me over to the financial aid office and helping me get some of these resources I needed, you know, in order to pay for college and, you know, navigate, you know, through college, like I wouldn't be graduating, you know. And so that was just very rewarding to see, man, like, you know, them walk across that stage, you know, and just their commitment to me over the years, man, like no matter the obstacle, you know, whatever happened with my career, you know, they still was there, you know, no matter what. And so those are like I said, those are the good students, man, that I really truly honor, you know, the most. And so watching those, you know, students go across that stage, and I always tell them, man, that degree gonna mean something, you know. And once you get that degree and attain that degree, like can't nobody take that from you. That's yours. So hold it with pride, you know what I mean, and work it, you know, make the best out of it. So
absolutely. Yeah. And coincidentally, Ariana Dryden, and I didn't even know her prior to her taking a course with me, her second to last semester at the university.
Gotcha.
Right? And so had her in my class. I mean, it was pretty evident that she was well known among the students.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She was a leader.
Yes.
She was a leader.
Yeah.
And I remember that same semester, in fact, my colleagues and I nominated her for a leadership award rather.
Yeah.
Something that was being done within the College of Education, and she actually won it.
Yeah.
That award. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
Or she told you about that.
Yes.
But so yeah, your work, right, has yielded very tangible fruit.
Appreciate that.
Right, and after actually having the chance to work with Ariana, I then learned that she was a part of POP.
Yeah.
I didn't know that when I had her in class.
Yeah.
Just quite some time afterwards.
Yeah.
And so just those connections, man. Just how those circles are definitely concentric, right?
Yes.
They collapse upon each other.
Correct.
The more you know, right? The more people that you come to know, right? The more you realize just how close, in fact, those connections are. And that's one of the things that I've learned about being here in Eau Claire, and meeting, different people, that those interconnections are very intimately, right, parsed together. And it's just been a delight to be able to work with Dennis in the time that I've been here.
Definitely.
And I mean, just from the couple success stories that I know that there are more and there are going to be more success stories, but just from the couple that you've identified, it shows that there is a need for this in our community. And I mean, just looking on WQOW or WEAU's articles about the hair braiding event and seeing some of the crappy comments that people write about, well, why is it any different? Or why do we need this? Yeah. Well, for the reasons that you just shared.
Correct.
People don't know how to navigate the resources that do exist.
Yeah.
They feel overwhelmed by things like school debt or being able to just pay for things.
Yes.
And it's things that a lot of people don't necessarily understand, because generally you can just go to mom and dad and get a check. That's an overgeneralization of the problem, but I mean, it is specifically impactful for people of color.
Definitely.
And it shows that this is a necessary thing that you're doing. So I guess, how do you combat that crappiness that exists on social media? Just not look at it, or do you...
Actually, before you answer that question, this is kind of why I asked you that question earlier about obstacles, right? Yeah. And if you notice, he really did not talk about, how those obstacles, right, have been disappointing, that have led to some reduced capacity, right, for you to move forward. And as you asked that question, I'm actually thinking about, what I asked him, and I was kind of waiting for you to maybe talk a little bit about that. But I would even suggest, which I think your question is, right, and you kind of intimated that, I don't think you really pay much attention to it. I mean, because I've had so many conversations with Dennis. He never talks about the negativity. He never talks about the negativity. He never talks about those things that may get posted. Never. I've never heard him talk about it. You wouldn't even know the obstacles that he confronts, because he never really talks about them. Right? And so, when you asked that question, that was kind of what I was trying to get you to unlock, but you really didn't. Right? So now you can have the floor, my friend.
Yeah. Like you said, I really don't pay attention to that. I got tunnel vision. How do I say it? I hate to bring like Christianity into effect, but I'm a Christian. I'm a firm believer in God. God has called me to this work. And with God calling me to this work, like getting that prophecy and remaining in that tunnel vision, like my biggest thing is that I feel like God will handle the haters. So that's on my back burner. Obviously I always keep my ear to the wall, but my biggest thing is I look at the positivity out of this. You know what I mean? Like one of my mentors always told me, he was like, you're not gonna be able to help everybody, but the ones you do help, I can guarantee that they're gonna really reap the benefits from that. And so over the years, like looking at the success of like some of the college students that I work with, and them, like I said, I'm not big on promoting what I've done for kids or students in general, but if they call me and be like, Dennis, I just got this internship, or Dennis, I just landed this job, or Dennis, I've, now that I'm able to give back and I just blessed my mom with this, or I gave my parents this. You know, that to me, I know I'm doing something right. You know what I mean? Like, people can criticize what you do and can say all this, but they're not the ones on that phone call. They're not the ones seeing those text messages when I get up in the morning. They're not the ones that, you know, see how I'm navigating this whole thing called life, you know what I mean, and growing something. And so, you know, I try to use that as motivation, to be honest with you all, just to keep stemming, you know, keep adding flame to the fire, you know, because I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a positive person, and if you let all that negativity and social media get the best of you, you know, you'll be on social media all day, and then your whole day just been wasted. You know, everybody get 24 hours in a day, you know, but it's up to you about what you're gonna do with it, you know. And so I could sit on social media all day long and, you know, tell you about, you know, oh man, I got back to this person, I got back at that person, but it's like, what are you doing in the real world to help really navigate all these problems? If you got that much time on your hands to criticize some people, you need to reevaluate your life. You know what I mean? I'm just being honest. And so, you know, I try to just keep tunnel vision, because like I said, I'm on a mission. I got goals to hit. You know what I mean? I got goals to reach, and I got people that are watching me. You know, I got my son, I got my daughter, you know, I got my wife, like I got, you know, younger kids that are really paying attention to who I am as a person and what I'm doing. So if I let them down, you know, honestly, like, it's gonna make me feel some type of way inside. And I internalize like pain or hatred or whatever. I internalize that. It's like a blender. You mix it all up in me, and eventually I'm gonna spit something out positive, you know. And so the biggest thing is, you know, man, I just gotta keep proving these haters wrong, you know, and that's my biggest thing, you know, behind what I'm doing, you know. So I mean, at the end of the day, I appreciate the support. Like, you know, obviously they recognizing we're doing something. So, but I try to, you know, not focus on the negativity, man, because I'm not a negative person. Like, you know, when I was growing up and stuff, like, you know, you had a different hurt that you go through, but like I took all that out on the field, you know, when I played football. So like now that I'm grown and older and growing something, like I just use that as internal motivation. I heard some years ago at a conference that said, use your pain as propane and use that to spark something within your life. And so just that always plays back in my head anytime I hear something negative. And it's like, put that in the blender, Dennis. Keep putting all that in the blender. And then eventually I'm gonna spit something out. And so that's the positivity that comes out of me, man. And I always like to keep a smile on my face. Like I follow, you know, I got my different people who I follow and stuff like that, you know, on a positive tip. So I try to use that every morning. I don't drink coffee or nothing like that, man. If I read devotion, or, you know, if I read my devotion and some quotes, you know, that's gonna get me going for the day, you know. And so honestly, and then looking at my uncle every day, he my screensaver on my phone, you know, looking at him, you know, holding my son, you know, I just know I'm making him proud. That's you know, awesome. So that's what helps me keep going.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think not dwelling on that negativity is a great thing. I've often said, I used to work at Starbucks, and you could have 100 customers in the day and you've got one that's just a butt. Yeah. And that one person is the one that you talk about. Yeah. You don't talk about the other 99 that were either neutral or really pumping you up and like making your day. You talk about the one that really messed your day up. Definitely. And so not focusing on that one, because they are the vast minority. Correct.
Right.
Correct. I think
and you make an excellent point there, Adam. And I think too often, and I'm kind of shifting, but it's connected, right? Too often we do spend too much time, right, accentuating the negative. And I think, you know, Dennis, to your point, right, if you have all this exorbitant time on your hand, right, to re-emphasize the negative, right, to engage in acts of antipathy, then you need to reevaluate.
That's it.
Right, and those were your words. And I think, you know, it's important for us to think about it that way. Yeah. Right, but unfortunately, right, we like to delve, right, and sit and stew, oftentimes to our discredit in the negativity.
Yeah.
You know, as we see, there's a lot going on in this country right now that's very, negative.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Definitely.
So I guess, do we want to talk about some current events at all? I guess, Justin, how much time do we have?
Oh, Justin went somewhere.
Yeah. He'll edit this portion.
He'll have to edit this.
But yeah, I think we've probably got, I mean, it's 6:59, probably 10-ish minutes left, 10 to 12 minutes.
Okay.
Do we want to talk we could talk a little bit about, like, do you have any knowledge about how your families have been impacted by, like, the child tax credit that was introduced in March at all?
Not really.
Okay.
But I can even talk through, like, even learning.
How much time do we have left?
Yeah, why
I know.
ask me a question the moment I leave?
Right?
We got about 10 minutes.
Perfect.
But I'll say, like, it definitely, I won't say, like, just in particular my parents, but just in general, I feel like them getting a lot of the tax credit has been positive in a sense. And the reason why I say that is because, like, them getting 600, whatever, 300, however much money that each family is getting.
Yeah, 300 per child.
And I feel like that has been helpful in a sense because for minorities, let's be honest, I don't know, like, your upbringing, we didn't go out on a lot of family trips, and I feel like that has helped a lot of families, like, be able to go visit their families across. If you in Wisconsin, I can go visit my family in Texas. I can go visit my family in Georgia. Why? Because I got this extra set of income that's coming in that I don't even have to worry, that I don't even know coming in, but I know I got $600 because I got 2 kids, or I got 1 kid and I got the extra 300. So I can be able to use this to, hey, go travel the world or go catch up on my bills or whatever the case might be. So personally, I think it's an asset to a lot of families, especially if you come from the struggle, in a way. And I think it's something that I feel like we need to keep doing, because if we want to dismantle, but my biggest thing is when you dismantle poverty, it's one thing to give them the funds, but also coach them on how to use the funds, and that's one of my biggest things too, like, because I feel like as minorities, sometimes we run through money, you know what I mean? And we don't take the understanding piece to be like, okay, I got $600, let me put 200 up. You know what I'm saying? Just for a rainy day.
Sure.
And sometimes, we just look at it like, man, it's just like an income tax. Like back in the day, for me growing up, income tax season was hot around the house. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, mom catch up on bills. We might get cable turned on. We're going to get our clothes off a layaway. Sure. You know what I mean? Mom might take us to the shoe store and go get, back in the day, you used to get 2 pair of shoes for like $89 or something like that. Like, that was the deal. You know what I'm saying? But you knew around that tax season, it was good time. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like now we just have to help coach, because it goes back to what you said, generational wealth. How do you create that? You know what I mean? We got to put those safety nets up. We got to learn how to dive into the stock market. We got to learn about real estate, owning places, little things like that, starting up our own entrepreneurship journey. You know what I mean? Wow. So,
and when you're focused on the day-to-day expenses and things, you can't think ahead.
Here's the irony, and probably even the paradox of what you said, Dennis, is that, when you have people who are not accustomed to having, a more fluent income, right? Yeah. And you give them these different streams of income, like what we're talking about right here, families who've been able to benefit from the tax credits, right? Yeah. We know that when you give people who are perhaps less affluent, right, income, they're going to spend that money within the economy. Yes. Right? Mm-hmm. Buying things that they need.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Cleaning up debt, whatever it may be, but there's a direct, tangible effect, right, to the economy. Conversely, right, people who may have, more affluence, right, they may invest their money in different ways, right, and the impact may not be as direct to the economy, but more so, right, to their personal pocketbooks, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I say that because, with this more recent conversation around, Build Back Better, for example, and I'm making the connections, right? Yeah. One of the senators who was opposed to, right, the Build Back Better, right, was the extension of the child tax credits that you just mentioned, right? Mm-hmm. And you know what his argument was for rejecting that? Was that he was concerned that poor people would spend the money on drugs.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. So again, you have these very draconian, discourses discourses that are just so hackneyed, right? That are just so off the mark, right? But they still persist and exist when it comes to talking about people who need the money to be able to go out and buy food to put on the table, to buy clothes, to buy those $89, 2 pairs of shoes for $89 that you talked about, right? You know, to be able to get maybe cable or something, you know, to put in the house so the family can enjoy it. You know, that's the thing, right, that we continue to confront and deal with, right? Now, granted, you know, my family was very much like yours, right? We would splurge. Well, we would think it was splurging, right? Because we didn't have it. Right? We didn't have it, so for us it was splurging, right? And but for others, you know, who had that, it was just a drop in the bucket. Right? And so it's just interesting when we talk about these narratives in these ways, in ways that you know, politicians and the like talk about, right? Why people deserve or don't deserve, right? These types of resources.
We, Pablo Group does a series of EDI trainings for all employees of the group, and one of ours last year was on poverty-informed practice. And our presenter started it off, and he said, I'm going to make a very controversial statement, but by the end of it, I think that most of you will agree with me. The best way to lift people out of poverty, give them money. Give them money, because if they can start taking care of their basic necessities and they can start building that wealth for themselves, they aren't going to be going out and spending it on other things that are superfluous. They're going to be putting some of it away. They're going to be spending it on their bills and paying their bills on time, taking care of their families, things like that. And they're going to cover their basic needs. And as soon as those basic needs are covered, then they're going to start putting back into the economy. And then once they're established there, they're going to start building that wealth up. And I mean, it's changed kind of what we've done within the group too, with our Home for Good giving the last 2 years for around the holidays. We've, instead of doing a gift tree where we purchase toys and things for certain kids, we just give the families cash. Because if that means that they get to pay their bills, or they can just buy a nice dinner, or it gives them a movie night, like something that just sets them at ease a little bit more than rather than saying, no, we get to choose what you get to spend that money on by buying you things rather than just giving you the money to decide what your family needs. So
it's significant, right? I mean, it speaks to this notion of trust, right? And it speaks also to this notion of that we believe that you're, you know, literate enough to be able to do what you need to do with the allocation of these resources, right? And I think when you deprive families of that, right, you continue to reify, right, these discourses that I talked about earlier with that politician who says, if we give poor people money, they're going to use it for drugs. You know, it's tantamount to the whole, you know, welfare queen comment back in the 80s, right? And so money begets money. If you, you know, like you mentioned just a moment ago, right? If people have money, right, there's something innate about understanding the concept of money, right? If you have it, right? You'll never understand the concept of money if you don't have money, right? It's just simple, right?
Well, and I mean, like, to kind of take it in a completely different direction, people that win game shows and buy a big house, they don't understand that they're not going to be able to afford that house in a couple of years. They just want a large sum of money, and they splurge, and then that house sits empty because they can't afford it.
That's why like, you know, through some of these educational lessons that I'm putting on with some of these kids, it's helping them to understand even also how to manage money at a young age too. Because I feel like it's like learning like checks and balances, right? You know, if you learn it at an early age and you learn how to save money or put something in a shoebox or whatever the case might be, it's instilling in that child that you have to save your money. You know what I mean? And if there are certain things that you want out of life, you can dip into that savings account. But it's just like my mom, like, I mean, obviously we grew up struggling, whatever, but one of the things that I always am big on, and even like when I got to college, 'cause I was on my own basically after 18. And so it was like, okay, I always have to have that safety net. So in my mind, I always had a safety net since I literally hopped off the porch at the age of 18. Like, and I made sure like, okay, if it gets below this amount, I'm broke. I don't have no more money. You know what I mean? Or I have to set it, okay, I'm at 500 now, let's get it to 1,000 or let's get it to 2,000 or whatever the case might be. But I learned through that, you know, and it was a practice, you know, I guess you could say gesture in the beginning, not knowing I was younger, like what does this mean to like really save money? And now that I'm older, I understand that concept behind it where, okay, me and my wife, we both on the same page when it comes to that. My wife's Caucasian, you know, and so upbringing's a little bit different, but we had to really sit down and understand, okay, how do you understand money? This is how I understand money. You know what I mean? Like we didn't have much. So I know how to take the little that I do have and to flip it into something bigger. You know what I mean? Or put this up, you know, we don't need this right now. You know what I mean? Even learning about credit cards. I wasn't even big on credit cards.
When you said we don't need this right now, you make me think about that layaway comment.
See? There you go. There you go. Seriously. And it's like that little piece, like, you know, helping like us being on one accord to understand, like, how do we want our child to be brought up? You know what I mean? Like, I just recently learned about like credit unions. You know what I mean? Like learning even more about it because of me working with Royal Credit Union, understanding different initiatives, reading up on little stuff, like little things that they might have put out there just to, hey, you all should read this. You know what I mean? And typically, like they say in the Black community, you probably know this saying too. What do people, if they want to know something about just on a larger scale, educational wise, what are they gonna put it at that they feel like people ain't gonna never open?
I don't know this one.
A book.
Oh yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's opening up their minds a little bit to understand, okay, this is good knowledge. Open that book up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or get somebody that knows about that book that can really establish, like, it's like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You know what I'm saying? Understanding just the certain understanding behind those things. Like, you know, and I know how to survive, you know? And so that's the biggest gist of it, man. Like, it's survival in this world. And so we got to learn how to survive. So, man.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I think that's about all the time that we've got for tonight. Thank you again, Dennis, for being here. And obviously, thank you, Rod, for being here today.
Absolutely. Glad to be a part of it.
Yeah. Awesome conversation.
Definitely. Thank you all again for having me. I appreciate it.